Welcome everyone to Pandora's box.
Wow, sounds great.
This is episode 2. Last time we were called This Episode Has No Name, but today I've got a really cool guest. We met a few weeks ago, no, maybe even last week.
Yeah,
for the first time, right?
exactly.
Through a mutual friend.
Right.
And honestly, I couldn't really gauge you at the start because we didn't really talk. It was quite just like surface level. Yesterday we went to the sauna and then we went for dinner, and I was thinking, wow, this guy is fucking interesting. This guy has a really cool story. You really do. So I'm butchering it. Let me give it to you and just introduce yourself, and then we'll just get straight into it. This is like a conversation, a glimpse into our lives.
Gotcha. Hi everyone. Introduction is kind of very philosophical, right? Like, you know, you may introduce yourself in very different ways.
Yeah.
My name is Gennady. That's kind of general way to introduce yourself, but everything behind that, you can say about your profession, you can say about your hobbies, you can say about your passion in life.
For the sake of this podcast, we'll keep it high level, right?
All right.
And then we'll go deeper.
Yeah.
You know, because for your profession, you did like a PhD, like 15 years ago, you got into AI.
Yeah.
Then you set up like multiple businesses in the AI niche. You're also now in blockchain too, right?
Yep.
Fantastic. And you have 2 children.
Yep.
So you're also a father of 2.
Yep.
They live in Spain.
That's right.
They live in Spain. This is like my summary. This is my like mental notes. What else do I know about you? I know you actually think quite philosophically, which we'll dive into in a second because I think that's really cool. And most importantly, you think very critically. Yesterday at dinner, I was thinking, I mean, we were talking and we were like, if you like could break down like the different classes and how the new world will be divided, let's say, you're really going to have like the critical thinkers, those who are unplugged from the matrix without a better way to put it, and those who just go with groupthink, they just go with whatever they're told and, you know, follow the status quo. They don't question things. And I think this is about so many parts of life, like even how we ask ourselves. You did a perfect example because I said, introduce yourself. What did you do? You didn't introduce yourself. You literally asked a question, which was, how do I introduce myself?
Exactly.
You're even questioning that, and it was a pretty fucking simple thing, right? I don't know if that comes from your academia. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's just the way, you know, I perceive life. Like, I question everything. Like, usually it comes from what childhood you had, right? Like, if you was free enough to ask questions. Yeah. And my childhood was free enough to ask questions and to explore things. I grew up in a small village. I had a bunch of, you know, kind of home, like different animals, you know, that I was caring about, right? I had a lot of freedom to do anything I want in that area. So like, you are on the ground, you can explore stuff. It's somewhat dangerous sometimes, but you know, you get something new. So yeah, curiosity and just keeping the pace of asking more questions, because like that's the only way how you get some, you know, explore something new, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just a way of thinking, and most people do that, but on different, you know.
Do you think most people do that?
Most people ask questions, right? The question is not about do you ask questions or not. The question is like, how deep is your question, right? So like how deep do you go? Because like, if you think about you know, the problem with questioning is you can always go, when you go very deep, you will end up asking existential questions, right? Because like the language itself, it is designed so you have this ontological hole. If you don't have a closing technology like God, like you'll end up asking the question about like why stuff exists. So like if you don't have and I say closing technology God because there is something, you know, people as a form of life and, you know, conscious species, and it's not just people, just every single system in the universe, it tends to follow something more bigger, right? And this is something that is more bigger. You don't usually know what is it, right?
Is that proven mathematically?
It is proven mathematically, yeah. I mean, quantum mechanics tells that. in a way when you go deep into the quantum levels, your astrology tells that when you go on the macro levels, right? Like you go and look at the images of the James Webb telescope, you figure out that we are a little dust in this giant universe, and still mathematically we can see that what we see through those telescopes is very little potentially from what it could actually be, right? So like we naturally want to understand more, because this is kind of the law of entropy. Like you want to expand, right? And you want to expand into our understanding. You want to expand into, getting more territory. I would say that from mental perspective, from physical perspective. So asking questions is kind of encoded into our.
So
our
do you think like a big drive is like, this is quite deep, but you said a lot of what we want to do maybe is to expand.
Yep.
Now, I think you have a very good understanding of AI.
Okay.
And LLMs.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people have like a slight worry when it comes to AI. I do.
Yep.
I don't know why, but I do for sure. Because I don't understand it fully. So maybe try and help me understand it, because look, if we want to expand and AI has been programmed by us originally, and these LLMs, all the language, like it's predictive, and that all comes from data inputs that we give it, surely it's just going to be like an evolved version of us in a sense where it wants to expand too. So if this AI, its North Star is expansion because it's got that from our expansion, why would it not take over in some capacity, and why would it not expand and win? If it's all about competing hierarchies. I don't know how that would look.
I see. Like, so the fear is that AI will get that.
I think there's a lot of people, for sure.
I think, like, we don't kill people that live in Amazonian forests, right? We're kind of more developed genetically and technologically and
no, I disagree with that, because maybe not right now, but like, I think the reason like Amazon is being chopped down, and the people that stop them, that don't move, to get killed. No?
Yeah, I see what you're talking about.
All these empires do kill.
Yeah, they do. Like, I mean, depending on what's the goal? Like, usually.
Well, this is my question. Like, we have all these like empires across the world. Everyone's like competing for power. Because after money, like, what do you go for? Often you go for power.
Because we are locked in this very small kind of ecosystem called Earth, right? Like, if you don't have a technology that goes beyond that, and it's actually, again, that's our nature. We want to go beyond that. We somehow stopped last century and, didn't explore much space. So what you do is, like, you are getting crazy inside. Like, there is a study, think about like rats. So rats living in the cave.
So it's a bit bright.
Nice. Now a little bit more like. So like rats living in a cave, having perfect synergic life together. They all happy. They collaborate. But then at some point, when the size of population becomes so huge, they start to fight. Because there is kind of certain comfort about how much territory you have around yourself that you own. Like, it goes beyond that. You're like, all right, someone already takes over my comforts. I'm gonna start fighting to get it back. And it usually happens. You wanna not just get it back. You want to fight for more, so you have some reserve and safety in case it's gonna happen again. So like, this is kind of, again, this is rats, but like anything, like people operate the same way. So like, we are just like in this small little ecosystem, and anthropology says, like, the only way you can combat that, you need an external factor that will unite these different people around, so you can now combat that external factor. And it's funny, but it may be AI, it may be aliens, wherever will be, maybe climate change, wherever will happen. It's gonna make people actually go out from the earth at some point. I have a philosophical thought about that, actually. It's like, people on earth, they're like an embryo inside of the mother's stomach. So like, but on the 40s week. So like it's if the kid is a little longer inside, is gonna shit there and gonna die literally inside. It's not healthy anymore to be inside, right? So like we are kind of in that edge. Like you think about how we fuck up our climates and stuff like that, and ourselves with the with going deep into the expanding deep into the something artificial versus expanding deep into the space, right? When I say artificial, I mean phones and digital, right? So like you think about that, we are at that stage where if we'll be wise enough and get born soon, then it's good. You have another giant life that is beyond what's called Mother Earth, right? And the moon could be almost like the father, like you're still not far from the mother, but you're already kind of exploring there. And then the Mars and beyond is kind of already kind of more adult stage.
So do you think it's a no-brainer? Like, is the only way out to leave the planet?
Right. If you want to,
I'm asking.
Yeah, I'm saying like that's the. What was the question again?
Is the only way out for us to just leave planet Earth?
Not. Yes, but in a meaning like.
So, but what's interesting? I know that
it.
one of your projects is you want to like build teleportation systems. How does that work? Like, can you just say, "Oh, I want to go to that road," and you go, or like, do you not need a receiver on the other end? How does that work?
On MVP scale, you need a receiver. So like first version, you basically you need think about like you have a microphone and the sound dynamic, right? So like microphone is here, the sound is there. So what you do when you want to teleport something, you read the surrounding metrics of the object that you want to teleport. And when I say metrics, it's almost like you read the molecular electromagnetic structure of this object, and it's dynamic, it's not deterministic, right? So you read every bit of it in time, you record it, you have a, say, supercomputer that is able to process that, send it there, and so the sound there produces needed vibration to recreate that object on that side. So like while you are technically while you are disassembling here, you will be assembled there. So like you need a receiver on a small scale, which is kind of that's how you would start on Earth. Like instead of going to the airport, you go to teleportation station. You have your passport still. It tells you have visa to New York. Cool, awesome. You just get the door. You go through the door. You are immediately on the Fifth Avenue, if you are allowed by a visa perspective. But it's gonna take no time. And people may struggle about that because like, well, I'm gonna be disassembled and assembled there. What exactly that means by my consciousness and myself? Like, am I losing something? The answer is technically you are doing that all the time. On a quantum level, you are always disassembling actually. Like that's how actually you operate as a chain of thought, I would say. So you don't change anything. Only you do is we make this process more controllable, right? That's how it works. Same way we may walk with our legs, or we may use cars, right? Like kind of same process. You just from A go to B, but you just more control that process and accelerate it.
How do you explain quantum mechanics at high level if someone's listening and has no idea what that is? How would you even start to explain it? And try like explain like I'm 5.
Yeah.
Try do that.
That's a good question. I think explaining simple quantum mechanics is basically think about. Let's think. It's a good question.
You can take your time.
You have an object, whatever object, right? And your perception about this object has specific characteristics. The object is that form. It has this amount of potential energy. color, blah blah blah. The 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 reality is that the object that you see and perceive is, from probabilistic perspective, is just one version of what it could be. Like, so technically you may say this object operates across multiple, so this object technically could have multiple characteristics. It could be white, it could be black, right? So like technically, probabilistically, there is nothing that could say why this object couldn't be black or white. At least mathematics, and quantum mechanics is a lot about mathematics right now. Again, it's a lot about mathematics, but at the same time, it's one of the most, I would say, precise sciences. So like we base on this math a bunch of technology that we use every day. So so the object that you see probabilistically can have different versions of itself without a matter who is actually observing that object, right? So like that's basically the explanation of quantum mechanics. For any type of object you observe or you interact with, technically, this is just one of the versions. And
so it's like quantum mechanics is the science of trying to explain things that are real and not real. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I mean,
I still haven't. You still haven't explained it.
You're going deep into reality. Like, what is reality? The reality is.
Well, quantum mechanics is like, what's the definition in? Like, how would you define it simply? Quantum mechanics is the exploration of systems where it's like probabilistic.
It is probabilistic science. Like, it's probably one of the most probabilistic parts of the science.
You still haven't explained it like I'm five, and we can cut this up. We can cut this up.
I'm trying to.
Because I want to like, also for myself, if I don't fully understand it, it's hard to talk about.
Exactly. It's like quantum mechanics try to tell you that the object that you interact with, and you are also an object that yourself, which has a bunch of probabilistic states. So basically, it's one system interacts with the other system,
but you don't know what the other system is,
and basically the amount of permutations you can have, how you interact, and what you produce by interacting with that system is like gigantic. So technically, you have all the possible versions of this conversation, and they nothing mathematically tells you that they cannot exist. So technically, they should exist. Like, but we are kind of inside of the collapse function of one specific, say, universe, and we are here. So it's almost like you're trying to explain the system that is much bigger than the system that you are in. Like, you are just one of the billion versions of the system. You are inside. In our philosophical and scientific challenge is like how exactly you can explain something bigger than you when you are inside of that very small portion of it.
So could you say that like quantum mechanics is like the science that, okay, I'll give you a story. So let's say that you're watching The Simpsons.
Yep.
And you're Bart Simpson.
Yep.
And you're on this whiteboard.
Yep.
Quantum mechanics is Bart Simpson's trying to explain the science of us watching The Simpsons in our TV in our pants.
That's nice.
Is that a way to put it?
That's a good way to put it.
Or no?
Yeah. No, I think you can say that way.
Because it's like something trying to explain something bigger than itself.
That's right. And
what's its practical applications?
The practical application is like, well, I mean, you can go, one of the obvious, which is still not kind of working well, is, quantum computing is probably one of the most practical ways to apply that. Basically, instead of using one single processor in our reality that could wherever calculate some job to be done, you now, because the universe is probabilistic, right? So you can have almost like you can have all this energetic resource across the universes to work on your task versus just using one. So that's kind of the most exciting practical application.
Well, I think the nice thing with quantum computing, from my very limited understanding, is it's like we're outside this mine, this gold mine, and instead of just sending in the people blind, you're making sure that the axe is really fucking sharp.
Yep.
No?
Okay.
Because the faster you get quantum computing solved, my understanding is, then when you dig into the rest of the other quantum mechanics and stuff, at least you have the tool that works really quickly.
Yep.
So you can understand that quicker, no?
Right.
Is it not an accelerator?
It is. Like, we need to... Why I'm very excited about LLMs as an example. You may go... So, like, there is different ways how you predict, like how you calculate stuff. Like usually today when you do something, you're trying to kind of brute force. Like you want to crack some specific password, you're brute forcing, right? Randomly, right? With LLMs, you are literally trying to predict, which is almost like a different algorithm how you archive and unpack specific part of the of information. Quantum mechanics is probably, you could say, this is perfect way of archiving very giant amounts of information into one very dense piece of matter.
It's actually really... I still don't fully understand it. I'm not going to pretend like I do.
The problem is that most of the physics in quantum mechanics, they still don't understand it too, even if you're the like very, very profound scientists. Because like, again, it's like in order to understand quantum mechanics, you kind of have to operate on
an existential level.
A few states. You cannot have just one state of your mind in order to understand it fully. It's
so
like
what are the states of your mind?
You have to have multiple states of the mind in the same time.
So, for example, what?
You mean like being on mushrooms?
Yeah. Do you think like being on mushrooms helps you understand that more?
I think it could be. There is I don't remember his guy. This guy, his name in 1991 discovered PCR technology to make PCR tests. You know, like we use that for COVID.
For COVID.
Yeah, and he was given an interview that he very doubts that he could discover PCR if he was not using LSD. So like LSD literally, kind of helped him to go that way. And I think why, this, and it could be not drugs, it could be meditation, wherever that changes your perspective, helps you to gather more different sides of the same problem, right? So like, this is what quantum mechanics is, just different angles looking at the same thing, right? And they're all different, technically.
What are the because I don't do drugs anymore, what are the different ways of, like you said, meditation is one. Do you think like sauna is another one? Like maybe just being present to the moment? Like what are things that gets you into that state of flow where just ideas come to you? Because I think that's almost a bliss, right?
I think it's very different per person. Like I tend to think that all we look in our life is insights. So like everything you do, you want to catch insight. And insight itself, technically, it's basically I would say, it's kind of, so the system, like if you think about the multiverse, the system always tries to go into balance, to be very, very balanced. And it's basically a wave function. So like, the insight is a spike inside of the wave function. Like it's you go up, you have amplitude, right? So like that spike is the moment when the system is not balanced right now. You get an insight, and then it's balancing it again. You get an insight. So like, all we do is we're looking for insights, whether it's sauna, meditation, wherever is that, you want that glimpse of different perspective about your reality. And you cannot look at this differently unless you go to another state of mind, right? That's why I was telling you yesterday that our thought process is basically a chain of insights, and they all, like, it's not like they come, you know, it was scientists from Google, they were exploring the minds and the, you know, how brain operates, and it was actually discovered in molecular structures that are called like qubits, conscious qubits. So like,
what does that mean?
They're basically trying to say that our brain has quantum mechanical nature. So we ourselves, you know, most people think like we are kind of deterministic. In fact, the way you think is basically, as I told you yesterday, it's a collapsed function. Like you technically always in that multiverse stage, but in order to sustain in this specific reality, you have to cut all of it. So like your brain and the entire body's job to be done is to basically narrow the focus to on this specific reality and kill off all the other noise. And you know, in order to do that job, you know, body literally gets older continuously. And now, what's the purpose of that? I don't know. But this is kind of, you know, it's continuous. Like it's happening every single moment. So like, how do you get these different stages? It all depends on the human. All depends on the human, the setting, what's your prerequisites, stuff like that.
It was quite interesting. We also spoke yesterday about someone's beeping, but we spoke yesterday about the fact that, and it's also to do with quantum mechanics. This whole like reality transurfing, this whole idea that you really can live the life that you really believe you live.
Yep.
Can you use, like, how do you explain that with maybe some quantum mechanics? You know, this idea that if I visualize this reality, it's going to, like, kind of manifestation.
Yep.
What's the quantum mechanics behind manifestation?
It's almost like, so if you imagine that the reality that we live in, well, first of all, when humans started to evolve, they came up with the idea that space is three-dimensional and there is another dimension called time, right? And I think that was the biggest mistake in our perception of reality. So like everything else that we are living in right now is kind of a sub-fallacy from there. So like if you completely change that perspective and say, well, you know what? Let's just a second imagine that the time is multidimensional and space is one-dimensional. You'll figure out that every single snapshot of your reality is just a snapshot. So like you almost like in the movie, you have a bunch of snapshots, you are inside, and now, so this is kind of, you have a two-dimensional movie with a bunch of snapshots, and you have like, and all these snapshots is a block of like universe block, right? And now this is just on the grand scale, just one dimension. Now you have on the circle a bunch of different movies that are crossing each other, right? So when you think about choosing your pathway, is basically
which snapshot are you going to take? Which reel are you going to take?
Yeah, so like it's not, so like technically, yeah, I mean, it's all kind of probabilistically already existing. It's about, you know, it's about with which one of these realities your current thought, you know, the best interferes. Because like the insights come from interference. You know what is interference? You basically have two waves that are, you know, crossing each other, and they basically produce another wave, right? Because they interfered, right? So like
they fuck. They fuck.
Kind of like, I mean, it's a good point. Like, I mean, it works. It all works the same thing. So like, basically, the wave, like the thought that you produce, is it's gonna have bigger or smaller interference with the waves of thoughts in realities that are neighboring you, right? So depending on what's your thought and with which reality is it's interfering, you will get the outcome. Now the question is, well, you know what? I don't like the realities that are very neighboring me because we are probably technically very similar. I want exactly that one that I'm a billionaire, right? So how do I interfere with that one? And the only way to interfere with that one is you slowly change the frequency. So every single time when you change it, your interference.
So there's a way to think of
evolve.
it like this. So I really appreciate that explanation.
Did it work?
I think so, but maybe I can help explain it further. Because from what I understand that you're saying is, so now my understanding of, okay, how does quantum engineering or quantum mechanics explain manifestation?
Yep.
It's that you kind of imagine you're at an old movie theater,
Yep.
and you have these reels of film,
Yep.
and there is a big projector, and the projector is your life.
Yep.
There is a guy in the movie theater
Yep.
with these different layers of film, right? And at any point, he's got these buttons, and he can choose which frame are you looking at on the film, right? Because it's frame by frame by frame, it's snapshot by snapshot by snapshot.
Yep.
Maybe that's millisecond, maybe that's day, maybe that's whatever.
Yep.
What you're kind of saying is, and quantum mechanics explains this, is that all of these films are running at the same time,
Right.
which is all the different versions of reality.
Yep.
You're in this one, which is this strip of film.
Yep.
If you want, and if you imagine this other strip,
Yep.
which is maybe, let's say, 10 rows across,
Yep.
of course you can't jump 10 rows across in one film,
Yep.
or like in one transition.
Yep.
But what you can do is, because you're focusing on it,
Yep.
and because maybe this is where it comes from, because you're really giving it that focus, that attention. Tony Robbins always says, where focus goes, energy flows. You're giving more energy to the next reel.
You are literally changing the frequency.
And then the guy, and so that's frequency, and then the guy behind whatever that is choosing the film that you're watching on the screen is like, okay, we'll move to the next one.
Right.
And then to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And so over time, you've manifested that life you want.
Right.
Is that a way to explain it?
I think it's a good way. The only thing that I would add here is that, for clarification, basically, technically, every single time you do that, obviously, so that in a way, you can technically say that, I don't know, 5 years ago, it was completely in different reality, technically, which was a completely different person. So it's almost like, which is crazy. Like, think about that. You have all these probabilistic universes. And
well, also all your cells change. All of your cells change.
But if you think about your perception of reality, like, if you imagine that you have all these different universes and they all exist in the same time, and I don't know, if you remember your dreams, but I can live 30 years inside of the dream, and I wake up, and it takes me 1 hour to realize that I actually was a dream, because, like, you live so long there. You
actually have
like
that?
This one is like, this, like.
Is that common for you?
It happens quarterly.
No way.
Yeah. This is.
I've had it like once in the last 5 years to have it like that.
No, I have multi-level dreams as well. I can go sleeping inside of the dream and then wake up inside of the dream. You see? So this is, and it's actually, it's pretty fun. But what I'm trying to say is that, and why it's interesting, because the dream itself is changing the frequency, right? So, like, that's kind of perfect, very bold example how you change realities. So, like, now you can do on, when you are awake, same thing, right? Almost like when you sleep. So what I'm trying to say is that, well, technically, I don't know about the, it's hard to explain how the structure looks like. I would say the question about how the structure looks like maybe not right question. Maybe it's not about looking like.
Maybe it doesn't matter.
Maybe it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, it's difficult because we're using like language, and we're using very like outdated
Yeah,
ways of communication to explain something that's so multifaceted.
language itself is very, very
That's the
primitive
barrier.
way to explain. And a lot of physicists actually say, like, I mean, in mathematicians, they always come up with new ways to mathematically, describe something. Like, they always tend to say, well, you know what? There's a problem I'm not able to explain with the current, mathematical tools that we have. It's just not possible. We literally have to come up with new math or new protocol that would make, help us understand each other on that direction. But what I was going to say is that without understanding how stuff actually looks like, what we clearly feeling is that you change your perspective. You literally left yourself, other version of yourself behind, and just kind of switched your perspective inside of the other self. Now, the question is like, what happened with that other self that you just switched in? Was it conscious until you was not in the focus? Is it living its own life and you're now dominating with your own focus? That's kind of very maybe stupid philosophical question.
No, it's not stupid.
You feel it? You feel it like you have all these different realities.
Yeah.
Are they unconscious? Are
They're just a
Piero,
different consciousness.
different Pieros inside of all these different realities? Are they unconscious there and just waiting for you to
Tap into it.
to go inside into that avatar? Or
I don't know.
like,
What do you think?
I think they probably should be all conscious, because like if we say that
You don't want an
they're
army
not
of me.
conscious, then it's like there is a anthropic principle. Like it's hard to say that everything is around the person. Like why? Why is everything around the person? Like human is the center of the universe. That's kind of stupid.
So what is the center? Maths?
No
Physics?
idea. No idea what is the center. It's just
Do you believe in God?
I don't believe in God. I believe, well, I mean, depending what's the God. Like what's
What's your definition
what's
of
the
God?
definition of God? I think God is a technology. It's something that we don't understand yet. You can say, well, that's God because it's so powerful, much powerful than me, and I should give up on something. Like I should rely on something that is more powerful than me, because like I'm not able to control it. So like for this, I'm gonna believe, I'm gonna just rely on that thing, and I will hope it's not gonna destroy me, but actually love me or whatever, right? So you could say that's God, but it could be anything. You literally cannot have any idea, and everything we came up in the religious is just people so in love with the personalizing stuff. They like God
We like
to look
giving
like
names.
them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because the world is fractal. Remember I was talking about fractal.
You said...
It's like you have one system, and when you look inside that system is designed the same way as the higher level system. And like that's how it works across all the universe. All the systems work like that. It's all fractal. And now we think about ourselves. Well, probably the thing that is more powerful than us looks like us and just created us, from itself, right?
Yeah.
And so we do the same thing.
Yeah.
We're born kids. Now we are building artificial intelligence. We call it artificial because the intelligence, it's humans who are intelligent. And this one is kind of us, but it's artificial.
Yeah.
So we are building our new, wherever is that, God, right? We're trying to be gods. AI is ultimately going that direction.
Well, I think of the story of Babylon, right? Which is, you said it yourself yesterday, and maybe that's AI, which is, if you don't know the story of Babylon, it's that there were all these people in this kingdom, and they all got together and had the same language, right? And they could communicate very clearly.
Right.
I'm butchering the story. But what they did is, because they were so good at working together and communicating, they built this incredible tower that was so big and so majestic, it literally touched the gods, or God, and the sky. And because of that, then it all came crumbling down. And God punished the fact that they did this and destroyed it all
Yep.
to start from scratch again.
Yep.
And it's just like the Greek mythology,
Exactly.
right? With the was it Icarus? He flew too close to the sun. He got burned.
Right.
We've all had it, right? Like I
Yep.
think this is why greed is always punished.
Right.
I've done it in the stock market.
Yep.
You get really greedy.
Yep.
This is you flying so close
Yep.
to the sun, and then you get smacked down
Of course. Yeah.
by that.
Yep.
That's why I think God could be real, because there are so many examples in life of these fables being so true. No? And that's the worry. Sorry, and that's maybe the worry that some people have with this AI. Also, not understanding it is you are equalizing it.
Yep.
That's why I asked at the start: could this be
Yep.
the end of the start of the end in a way?
It could be, as I told you, yes. Like it could be, but like it's not in the way we think is the end. The way the end will come is we will merge with AI, and AI will be more than humans anymore, and humans will be just a kind of a very small level of what is AI. Just like we.
But you want that?
We contain in our genome all the other previous, versions of humans, right, before Homo sapiens. Would I know that? Would I want that? Selfishly, of course, you feel like, scary, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I mean, you kind of do that all the time. Like you killed yourself yesterday, so you are existing today, right? That's like, it's already happening anyway. We just usually don't recognize that, or we don't really want to recognize that. But you're killing your previous version every single fucking day. Why would it be like, AI is just Homo superior on top of Homo sapiens. It's just the next version.
But my argument is, and I don't know about you, but I do like going into nature. And when I go into nature, it's so beautiful.
Yep.
It really grounds me, and it
Okay.
brings me back to, for lack of a better word, source. It's really beautiful and inspiring. I don't think that's by accident. And that's a 7-star building or a
Yep.
7-star hotel,
Yep.
right? I live in Dubai, where you've got incredible buildings,
Yep.
super whatever, like the best and the biggest of everything.
Yep.
It's inspiring, but it's not in the same way.
Yep.
Because I don't think it maybe hits the frequency or whatever you want to call it. I don't think it hits us on that level.
Yep.
And that's why I ask all these questions, because you could argue maybe like Homo superior is like a better version of ourselves. But do we lose a connection to source, which is like true God?
Yep.
And like you were saying with June,
Yep.
right? For those who don't, if you've watched the film June, I've never watched it, but Gennady loves it. And you said that in this film June, you had all these people, they built this robot civilization that then ended up destroying the world.
Yep.
But there was a group of outcasts
Yep.
who just focused on themselves, let's say, and healing all their wounds through meditation
Right.
or whatever it was,
Yep.
right? Like
Yep.
sitting there
Yep.
and using the internal power,
Yep.
right?
Right.
What do you say to that?
Well,
Should we not just put more focus on that?
100%. I think that's the next big thing for humans. When you have AI taking over a bunch of jobs and thought processes, like what we can do is we start going back to, our own capabilities. Like, as I told you, it's like people from very historical times, they tend to build tools around them so they can, which is leverage, right? They'll make them more efficient, stuff like that. We have not, so we are kind of poisoned with that idea that much, so we haven't noticed what our own capabilities. Like, you just, all right, I'm just gonna build tool for me. I'm not gonna notice what I actually have by myself. And what we have, we kind of sometimes recognize that, like, as you said yesterday, like when I literally can think about my life, my wife, and she will call me in a minute, or like message me, or like, and I can find out like how it's
Can you
physically work.
Can you explain why is it that if I think of someone, then they message me? Like even this morning, my friend sent me a message.
Nice.
She said, and I thought about it yesterday, and she woke up because we have this.
Yep.
She was like, "Hey, did you dream about me?" Now I didn't, but it's because she dreamt about me, and she was like, she was wondering if it's like pings. And I'm gonna throw this.
It's very kind of easy actually when people are are operating on similar frequency.
Yeah.
When I say frequency, it's almost like your vibes or universes are kind of have the same frequency, which means they interfere very often, right? And you almost like have like you don't need wires to connect with each other, because it like
Is that Wi-Fi or Bluetooth?
If you have a qubit in your head that is, going on the frequency same as that person, you'll have like no time, very fast communication. That's like already, I would say it's even technically proven. Like we already have a Nobel Prize winner for quantum communication, right? Like there was a experiments about in this space. Now we still don't understand how it works, like with humans, because it's much bigger level. Because probably
Can you explain quantum communication quite quickly?
It's basically you have one particle somewhere that is.
Let's use an analogy to make it simple to understand. So you have Bob,
you have
and you have Jane.
Yeah,
whatever.
you have Bob, you have Jane. They are technically the same if you think about frequency, right? Obviously,
Okay.
Jane and Bob are different, but like they kind of on the same
Waves,
same
vibes.
Yeah, same floor as an
Okay.
example. It's easy for them to communicate.
Yeah.
Same thing with the quantum communication. It's like because you have a lot of similarity on specific characteristics of this piece of matter, like you can communicate. You don't need wires for that.
Do you think that's why they say that's why they say you like marry on your level, or you date people on your level?
Yep.
Because you have that congruence with that person.
Yeah.
Is that to do with it?
That's kind of
Or
yes.
am I pulling at strings?
That's very good. You're going very deep, because like these are all social structures. Like if you think all from where they came from, they all coming from the same fractal. How actually stuff operates. So we came up, well, okay, if you are the same level, you'll be better together. But then, if you want to be that version of yourself that is billionaire, as an example, you'll have to
level up.
You have to level up, right? You'll have to change the frequency of your universe that you're living in. Right?
That's true.
So it doesn't.
But that's also very hard to do, and I find it myself.
It is hard.
I've changed a lot in the last 6 months.
Yep.
And I've in some ways leveled up. But it's very hard.
Yep.
And you feel it. Like even me, I got pretty fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, to be fair, I had something personal happen to my family, and in 1 week, it's like I went back to my former self.
Yep.
Because it's so hard to push.
Yep.
And I feel it's so hard to crack into this other reality.
Yep.
What are things that maybe you've seen? Because you've gone through the ranks, right? You come from Ukraine, and now you're sitting here in Dubai.
Right.
You've your family financially secure because of you, right? You've built so many big businesses as well.
Yep.
You've gone from operating on this plane to now operating here.
Yep.
How does someone do that?
It's discipline. Like I mean, as you said, your former version is always pulling you back, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, go back to physics. Like in this new reality, you are an antimatter, right? Just like as I told you, when you have a dream about something, and it's completely different reality, and you wake up, the reason you forget about this because it's an antimatter in this reality. So like your body eats that, and you get older. Same thing here. It's like you have to put a lot of effort to remember that different reality. You have to put a lot of effort to stay on this, in wherever next floor, long enough, so your frequency will adapt, and now it's going to be natural to you. And it's always pulling you back, because like it's almost like if you have, I don't know, 30 years in some completely different state, you may need another 30 years to really be on that new state. You will always hear the voices of that one, like they will always try to pull you back. I got lucky because I have very, very strong life partner, my wife, and 2 kids, and it's kind of extra motivating to not give up. Like this is the only way you do it, right? You don't give up. Yeah, it is hard, and I think that's why that's why most people kind of lose, because our brain, the way our brain operates, is it always chooses the fastest pathway to get, the laziest pathway, right? Like electricity. Like electricity always is choosing the fastest pathway to reach the destination. Same thing with the brain. So like, well, the laziest pathway is usually not profitable. Sometimes it's profitable, sometimes it's not. So like you have to push yourself.
Could you not argue it's super profitable? Because, oh, I see what you mean. I was going to say, could you not argue it's more profitable than anything because it's like the most efficient way for that system?
So again,
I was going to say, like, if you look at, I don't know, like, my point was, is it not the most profitable? Because, for example, like the opposite of what you're saying. Because, for example, if I'm like, okay, I need to go a kilometer. Like, the not lazy option, like the hard option is walking. The lazy option is driving. But what's hard is the effort to create the system for the laziness.
Exactly.
That's the difficult thing.
That's a good point.
That's the difficult thing. It's creating these systems.
Like, we all kind of want to be in the system where you can finally chill. Right? But then the question is, why?
Because like, the hard thing is, if instead of this, I send a letter explaining our conversation to all of my friends. Right? The lazy thing is I put on a camera.
Exactly.
Right? So, but the lazy thing will get more views and more reach.
Good point.
And if I had someone doing all of these videos for me and cropping everything up, it's even lazier, and I'll get even more reach. Right?
Exactly.
But to put in those systems, you have to invest, and that's the difficult thing.
Because the system is ultimately the mindset. It creates mindset, it creates perception now, instead of all these other humans' heads. It almost creates new, somewhat. Like,
how do you think your mindset's changed as you've become a bigger entrepreneur? Like, what are the big changes?
I think the biggest changes when you get more successful is you start to value a lot focus, because when you start, you want to do all the things, and you end up not being successful at any of those. So you start to value, and kind of you start better to say no, which makes you a lot of money actually when you say properly no to something. The problem is, you always have this fallacy. I just lost this opportunity. So just have to. But again, the fact is, like, if you push just one of these, it's gonna be successful. Or until you realize, kind of objectively that it doesn't make sense.
If I was you, you're 32.
33.
33.
Jesus
age.
Age, 100%.
You're 33, Jesus age, in Jesus clothes. It's such a cliche question. But if you're sat with you here at 25, what's things that you'd like to tell that person?
I'm trying to imagine myself.
Like, what are things that are like, hello, birdie. What are things that maybe you spent the last 8 years doing that was just irrelevant? Or like, not, like, why did you do that? Or like, why did you think about that? Or
I think, and I was thinking about that recently a lot, try to get rid of your fears.
What are your fears?
Well, I mean, you mean what were my fears in 25 or right now? Now? It's kind of all kind of the same but different flavor. Like, you usually fear, just going back to the conversation that we had before, you usually fear to go bigger. You actually fear that because it's bigger than you, right? It may just eat you. So like that fear, it just kills you just inside of your head. You don't even have to do anything. It's just going there, thinking about something, the expansion itself. In my world, I was actually living a lot in the fallacy that no, I'm not actually. I don't fear anything. I don't have fears, except some crazy stuff about family or something. But then I went deep into the chain of thought. I was like, well, every time I don't do something, but I actually would like this to do, that was because of fear. And usually either fear of failure or fear of you don't know how to operate on that stage. Maybe you'll
fuck up.
Will fuck up, or you will put a lot of effort, you get successful first time, but then you don't have a strategy how we'll sustain on that system. It's all about fears. And for 25 years old, I was like, well, fail fast and don't fear, don't have these fears, because you have so much potential beyond, like so much.
What's something that you need to do right now that you're putting off?
You mean that I'm saying no to?
Not that you're saying no to. I'll give you an example. Like me, so we're talking about all this manifestation and this stuff. I know it's good, and I know when I sit there every day and actually like manifest and think about the reality I want to live, I literally see ripples in my reality where I'm like, oh shit, like that's getting closer and closer. And I think about it, but actually sitting there and actively manifesting, for lack of a better word to put it, I don't do it enough. And that's actually why I joined like a group for accountability, so I can do more of this stuff. That's like an easy example. Maybe it's I need to get fitter again. I need to go to the gym more. Maybe it's, I don't know, I need to do more public. You said you had a fear kind of coming on a podcast and doing some public speaking.
I exactly came in to kill that fear. Right.
What's something that you're like, damn, I need to do that, but every evening you're like, fuck, I didn't do it. And you know you need to do it.
That's a good point. Well, I think just there are collaborations that I have that should end in business-wise. Like it's already gotten everything I could get from this business collaboration, and I'm not ending it because either some social adherence because we became friends with these people or something like that, but programmatically this collaboration should end. I should exit and move on because it eats time and mind share anyway, and the amount of time and energy it eats
is not worth the output.
No, it's not. It was profitable 5 years ago.
But not
it's
now.
Not profitable anymore because like there is other stuff that I can do now that will make me 100x, 1000x. But because I still kind of, I'm anchored to that collaboration, I don't have enough capacity now to do the new thing that will give me all this access. And this is kind of thing that I'm working on right now to actually make this decision. And it's a very hard decision because like it kind of, it's emotional. It's
I understand, but it's in everyone's. We can cut this stuff up after. But it's in everyone's best interest, no? It's in everyone's best interest because whether you know it or not, you saying this shows that you're not fully in it anymore. Right? I always say if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no.
It's a good point.
And so because you're like half-assed, it's actually a disservice not just to you but also to them.
That's exactly.
And even if it hurts them now, because you have to say goodbye, it's not working for me
anymore. It's going to be benefits for everyone.
It's beneficial for them. Because think about this. You're working on an opportunity that's 100x. That's the opportunity cost that you're losing. And you know this stuff. But also for them, if you take this partnership away, they're now forced, it's back against the wall, they're stood on the ledge, looking over, like, fuck, I need to do something else that will actually help them. So long term, you're actually serving them. And I'd argue it's selfish what you're doing right now, putting it off.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yes. Yeah. I think it's again goes to the fears because like, all right, you have this, you may say this is not selfish, but the person who will hear this, hey, I'm exiting, is like,
it's selfish.
You have to sell it. So like you have to sell the future and the strategy, what's going to happen when you exit, especially the fact that, now this person will be smashed on the wall and will think about, how to do now, doesn't have an answers yet, right? So like it doesn't feel like it's not selfish for that person, right? So like it's all about, so yeah.
But it's not your choice, or like it's not your fault. Like it's not your job to like lead someone else's mindset.
That's
like
right.
there was a girl that I
Yep.
really liked at the start of this year.
Yep.
And honestly, there was a bit like in retrospect journaling, there was a girl that, sorry, there was a bit of me that wasn't like, that had question marks because I was like, oh, she's so beautiful, she's so smart. But then I journaled about it. And I'm like, actually, I don't know if she's that smart. I've just been saying she's smart, right? To kind of lie to myself. I'm not a bitch because I haven't said the name. But then I realized, because she wasn't into me anymore, it's actually the best thing that could have happened because, like, because it's like it wasn't a fuck yeah.
Yep.
From both of our perspectives.
Okay.
You know?
Yep.
And so actually, but because I've got the mindset that, oh, yes, it was a rejection and it maybe hurt me in a sense, right? I've got the mindset that actually, no, this is the best thing for me.
Yep.
It's just not nice to force that on someone.
Yeah.
But you still have to do it.
We still have to do it. That's the only way. Yeah. I mean, as my wife says, you cannot be great for everyone. Some people will hate you. And you cannot change that. It's almost like a law.
But what I'm trying to say is, like, I'd argue, without, you don't realize this, but more people will help you for not doing the right thing because you're holding back your light.
Right. Yeah.
No?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's a good point.
If you say in your own words, the other opportunity is 100x,
Yep.
for this one that you hurt, there's 100 people that are potentially hurt in this quantum reality.
Yeah. Which means that there is nothing bad you're actually doing, right?
Yeah.
For anyone around. It's just, the problem is usually not everyone operates on the same level.
That's true.
So
That's exactly what I was saying.
Is different.
Yes. And that's hard because, and people forget this, like,
Right.
it's hard to reject someone like that, right?
Yes.
Like, again, to give an example, I had a relationship last year. It's always relationships. But I wasn't a fuck yeah anymore.
Yep.
And I know I really hurt the person ending things with them. And it's not a nice thing to do. It never is.
Yep.
But I know for a fact that both of us long term are better off.
Yep.
Even though I kind of like pulled this rug out underneath that person, right?
I loved, like, it was like 8 years ago. I was in charge of firing people a lot. I loved that.
That's so fucked up.
I loved that. Like,
why?
In terms of, I took that way when and it was a kind of a moment in our company. We had to fire some people. I loved the philosophy of it. Exactly something that you're talking about. I had 1 hour conversation with the person, literally saying how cool the life will change after this event for that person. Because, like, it's not just this person doesn't work for us anymore. It also us as an employer doesn't work well for that person too anymore. So we are just in a bad situation from both sides. And the reason, and someone should pull a trigger, and I'm actually making you a huge gift that I'm doing that, because you just follow in that wherever situation, like comfort zone, and you don't want to go outside. Like, you might be there for 10 years. Like, if I don't fire you for the thing that we are firing you, like, you might be in that comfort zone for a very long time, literally degrading, right? So I had like 1 hour conversation with these people, and people were smiling in the end. It was good. People don't usually do that. They like, I don't know, 15 minutes, hey, boom, 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 done. This is your severance package, bye, right? So I liked that experience from philosophical standpoint. Obviously, it was very energy consuming. That's for sure.
Thank you very much, Gennady. That was such an eye-opening podcast. I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
If people want to find you, what, Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Gennady.guidergy. It's very hard to explain.
I'll put it in the bio.
Yeah.
And you've been listening to Pandora's Box.
Nice.